gone. Consent calendar, item 9. Christy, you ready?
Consent items are considered routine and are intended to be acted upon in one motion without discussion. During this portion of the meeting, the consent calendar will be read aloud. Prior to approval, the President will give the board, staff, and public the opportunity to pull any item for discussion. The remaining calendar will be acted upon. Any pulled items will then be heard and acted upon individually. A. Approve minutes of the May 12, 2022 regular board meeting. B. Approve minutes of the May 19, 2022 special board meeting. C. Accept April 2022 committee report. D. Accept the monthly investment report as of April 2022. E. Accept register of warrants for May 2022.
Would there be anything from the public you wish to pull, Jiva? Thank you. Anything else? Board?
Item C, I'd like to pull, please.
She just pulled that. Go
Okay.
ahead. Charles, anything?
Nothing.
Staff? Right, so may I hear a motion to approve items A, B, D, and E?
I'm sorry, Mr. President, I thought she pulled item E.
That's correct.
Yes, I'm asking for item C to be pulled.
Thank you. I'm sorry, my mistake.
I
We'll
think I
pull.
was going crazy.
No, I'm going crazy for sure. Items C and E are pulled then. Is there a motion to approve A, B, and D?
I move to approve items A, B, and C, please.
Second.
D, please.
Motion by Quinn, second by Grace. Roll call vote.
Director Grace?
Aye.
Director Jensen?
Aye.
Director Quinn?
Aye.
President Hahn?
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Let's hear your. Let's go to C first. Tell us why you want to pull C. Oh, yeah, C.
See, this just goes back, Christie, to the infrastructure committee, and this was a comment that I made in the last meeting with Bill. It's just the reference to the volunteer attendance. It's just not completely accurate. There wasn't any discussion. This implies there was discussion by among the committee, and it was referred to the board, and that was not what took place. There was a question asked by one committee member, the president, or the chairman rather, answered, and the committee member said it should be brought, and that's all that was the discussion. So I don't know how we augment that to clarify, but again, it's just, if I was a member of the public picking this up, I would infer that the committee had discussed it as a whole and referred it to the board for action, and that was my concern on the last meeting as to why it got on the agenda, because it wasn't referred to the agenda. So.
Okay, we can approve it as corrected. If you're good, or I can bring it back next month.
Yeah, if we can just say something to the effect of a committee member inquired about if the chairman had contacted the member, the president or the chairman answered no, and that was that, or something to that effect. So,
Yeah, I can make that work.
okay.
Would you like to move to approve that as amended or bring it back next month?
We can move to approve it. It's just a. I know it's a little thing, but it's about clarity and accuracy.
Sure, let's get the
So,
record straight. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'll move to approve as amended.
Second.
Motion by Grace, second by Quinn. Roll call vote.
Director Grace?
Aye.
Director Jensen?
Aye.
Director Quinn?
Aye.
President Hahn?
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Item E. Chiva, would you please approach the podium and tell us your concerns on the register of warrants? I'll entertain while you get there.
Okay. Yes, two questions. There is the Knowles Construction Settlement Agreement for $3,600, and I was wondering what that was about, and that could be answered. And then the Waterwise Garden. I understand you're going to be doing some work and support on the Waterwise Garden, and I was wondering what that estimate of costs was going to be and how it's going to be budgeted into this. So that was my question about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chiva. Do we have, if you have the answers, please.
The settlement for Knowles Construction was for the water line break, I'm sorry, on Paramount. They filed a claim, the board accepted it, and then we made the payment to the contractor. The second one was the Waterwise Garden, I'm not sure what.
Isn't
Well, it was for
Okay, Jiva, good? Should we move to approve item E?
I'll move to approve item E.
Second.
Motion by Jensen, second by Grace. Roll call vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. That concludes our consent calendar items. Disclosures by Board of Directors. Christy?
Board members are asked to disclose any outside communications with individuals and organizations that have an action item on this agenda that pertains directly to them or their specific personal or private interests, and which communication is not included or disclosed in the agenda package, so that all interested persons have an equal opportunity to express and represent their interests.
Anything?
Nothing.
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 Nothing. Item 11, action items. A, adopt resolution 21/22-31 to collect delinquent accounts for water, sewer, and refuse services via tax roll. Public hearing item.
Indulge me for a minute, I need to restart my board practice because it is
Okay.
Mr. President, members of the board, on May 12th, at the 12th meeting, the board accepted a report of delinquent accounts prepared by staff and scheduled a public hearing for tonight. Following that, staff prepared and mailed letters to the listed properties, and notices of the hearing was posted in attached news. Since the publication, the notices were mailed. 8 property owners have paid a total of $9,755.34. Reducing the amount to be collected to $54,484.85. After the conclusion of tonight's hearing and adoption of the resolution, the report will be filed with the Kern County Auditor, and the delinquent charges will be placed on the property tax rolls. I'm available for any questions.
Board questions? Public questions? Okay.
No questions, then, Mr. President, we open the public hearing.
I hereby open a public hearing for delinquent accounts for water, sewer, and refuse services via tax roll. Would anyone like to address the board? Time was, what was, did you use the time? Thank you. 6:12. Shall we close the hearing? 6:13. Okay. Entertain a motion as listed.
You take it, John?
Yeah, I'll take it. Mr. President, propose a motion adopting resolution 21/23-21 to collect delinquent accounts for water, sewer, and refuse services via tax roll, via tax roll.
Second.
Motion by Grace, second by Jensen. Roll call vote.
Director Grace?
Aye.
Director Jensen?
Aye.
Director Quinn?
Aye.
President Hong?
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Item Bravo, approve agreement for dispatch services with Kern County. Also, Ms. McEwen.
President, members of the board. Since 2017, the district has contracted for dispatch services with Kern County. The current agreement expires at the end of June. Before you is an agreement for the upcoming 5-year period. The terms are the same as the current agreement, with the exception of the annual cost, which increases to $115,174. Upon approval by the board and execution by the district, the agreement will be included on the consent agenda at an upcoming Board of Supervisors meeting. Any questions, but I'm going to call for the rest.
Thank you, Christy. Members of the public have questions on this. Jiva?
Thank you. reading through this, I remember when Chief Kermode was filling in, and he was saying it was difficult for him to figure out what had been done the previous day. So when he came in and did his reports in the morning and pull things together. Now this is something that Chief would have to answer. So I didn't know, reading through this, if this addressed everything that the chief could pull up like they did previously from our local dispatch, and could get everything they needed to have a proper report and everything that had gone on before, and to be able to tell the folks what to do, or the police officers. So that was one question I had. If you had a chance to read through it thoroughly and were satisfied, then it met everything that you would need to properly do your job, you know. So that was one part. And then the second was, again, the CPI matching LA, Anaheim, Riverside. And so I had a concern again about that. So that was my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Jiva. Did you have an answer, Chief?
So, my understanding of what it was that Chief promoted.
Chief, you need to get close. Really close. Really, really, really close.
Hopefully this is close enough. My understanding of what it was that Chief Commode was talking about when he was discussing the challenges that he had when he would come in the morning, he would turn on his computer. It was his ability to view and access the CAD system from dispatch. The CAD system basically gives you a history of the calls from the night before. It also shows you any current calls and the times and the officers that are on that call, what the disposition of that call was. From my understanding of what it was that he was expressing, was that it was nice to be able to sit down and pull that up on your desk. However, due to I believe it's a licensing issue, we don't have that on our desktops. It's only available in our vehicles and our cars. So we do have it. It's just it's not available when you come in and sit down, which is I have to admit, when I sat down and looked at the system, it's something I'm not used to either. You typically would be able to pull something up, but the way that this is, we'd have to be in the vehicle. This contract does not address that. This is, from my understanding, completely separate.
Thank you, Chief. Are there other public comments on this item? Board, you want to start?
Good evening, Chief. Does this include the sheriff's dispatch handling anything pertaining to RIPA for us?
It doesn't change. No, it doesn't change what was already part of what we did for our RIPA. We have separate software. So it doesn't affect.
Is dispatch handling our RIPA data for us?
Well, I don't know if it's dispatch. I don't know if County's handling it. We were pointed to them. I don't know who actually handled it.
Okay. But that's part of our contract with the sheriff's department then?
I'm not aware.
Okay.
As far as the RIPA, we have a separate agreement. I don't think it's part of the dispatch.
I'm sorry. I was under the impression that dispatch was going to be handling, from speaking with Mr. Commode, that dispatch was going to be handling our RIPA data.
And my understanding was that it was separate from that. I'd have to check the issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Does it? Does it?
I don't know. I mean, we can talk about RIPA later, I guess. Yeah, that's fine.
I might not be the only non-law enforcement person that doesn't know that acronym RIPA. Will you tell us?
RIPA is basically the Racial Profiling Act that was enacted, well, actually many years ago, but this is the first year that we're going to have to submit a report, well, in April of next year. So we 2023. So we should be compiling data now so we have something to report to DOJ. Basically, years ago, the state legislature, in all their wisdom, decided to put together this massive program to require law enforcement agencies to collect data on race, gender, sexual orientation, disability, age, and why you stopped people, and how long you stopped them for, and just collecting all of this data for every contact that you make
Thank you.
in the public.
Appreciate that. Terry, good anything?
I have nothing.
I have nothing to add here. I'll entertain a motion for item B under action items.
I move the Board of Directors approve the agreement for dispatch services with Kern County and authorize the General Manager to execute related documents.
Second.
Motion by Quinn, second by Grace. Roll call vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Shortest action item list since I've been on the board. Information and discussion items. A, fiscal year 2022-23 budget cost of living adjustment. We did have some discussion on that in closed. Public input on COLA? Yep.
Hello, Mr. President, members of the board, and residents of Bear Valley. Tonight you see before you the members of the BVCSD Public Works Department. We are here as a collective to introduce ourselves to you and set the record straight about a few misconceptions that we feel have not been adequately dismissed. We are not underworked and overpaid as sites like Transparent California suggest. The first misconception is the figures on the site represent our take-home salary. In reality, the figures shown encompass not only salary but benefits like health insurance, life insurance, and retirement. These figures have recently been touted as a reason to deny us our 8.4% cost of living adjustment because we make too much money already. Our take-home range is $15,000 to $20,000 less, depending who you're looking at, than what is totaled on Transparent California, and what is displayed is our gross, not our net, so Uncle Sam's portion isn't even accounted for. The second misconception is that we don't work hard enough for our pay, which is simply not the case. I've been with the district 7 years, and I have seen the level of dedication our crews put into their jobs. I had the opportunity to work with each department. I was everywhere, from roads to water to wastewater to solid waste to facility maintenance. I've done it all. Our public works department is one of the most diversified ones in Tehachapi. We handle a plethora of issues, and we do it every day. We handle your water and water emergencies, 110 miles of road and right-of-way maintenance, as well as drainage, solid waste, and EPA issues involved. We handle your sewage and the collections for your sewage, and so much more that it would span at least 3 hours if we were to discuss it, but I only have 3 minutes. If this weren't enough, we must also take care of our own facilities to keep our operation running. We deal with faulty equipment daily, extreme temperatures and situations, budget constraints, long hours stretching well into the night or next workday, and still we manage to get each job done safely and effectively. We sacrifice holidays and family time for snow plowing or water breaks. We do 16 on, 8 off, then back again for another 16 during big storms. I've been on water breaks where it was so cold and we were so soaked that Daniel and Will's beards had icicles dangling from them. I've plowed on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's Eve and day. We are here more than we are at home, and still there are those of us that must rely on overtime or side work to make ends meet. Many of us have families to provide for, just like the residents of Bear Valley, and we are not entitled. We recognize the needs of the few don't outweigh the needs of the many, but we are the few who serve the many, and if you overlook us, then you overlook them. We are dedicated and will continue to perform our duties because this is the career path we have chosen, and we love it. It's challenging and rewarding to perform a service that is vital to society. For our Maintenance 1 employees, an 8.4% cost of living increase means that they will be seeing only $1.72 more an hour. However, they won't really see this increase because the cost of everything is either matching or surpassing this wage increase, so anything less is a farce. If you would like to hear more about just how much we do for this community, please feel free to talk to one of our Public Works employees, and I know they will have many examples to share with you. Thank you for your time. Respectfully, Jareth Eaton, Roads Crew Lead.
Thank you, Jareth. Other public comment on this discussion item? Excellent. Board?
So if I can get some direction as to what we're talking about for this, because we talked about it for an hour before, which I argued much of should have been a public discussion anyway. Okay. The first issue I take,
Oh, last meeting, or the budget meeting, sorry.
no, that's okay. So the first issue I take of this is, it's a process issue. It's the way it came up. We were presented with a budget workshop, and in that, we were presented with a 43-page PowerPoint, none of which showed specifically an 8.5% COLA, or cost of living adjustment. That's the first issue. The second issue was that it was suggested in that meeting that, well, there could be representational issues that were requiring the COLA. I believe that that is not the case, at least not in writing anyway. Perhaps by past practice, but not in writing. With that in mind, I went through budgets since 2010, and there's been a COLA every year since 2010. I can think of no public agency, certainly not the one I worked for, and not our civilians in that agency, that received a COLA every year. So at some point you have to decide, how long does it go on? Do you give a COLA every year forever? Or do you take a break ever and not do that? Maybe employees need to be represented so that they have termed contracts with their units of representation. And in those, their salary ranges would be set. And maybe their benefits would be set, and that might benefit both the district and the employees. But we can't afford an 8.5% COLA. If you look at the bottom line on salaries and benefits, it's over an $800,000 hit, and we just can't take that.
I don't have anything to expand on what we already talked about in closed session. I do have similar concerns with the process, not the outcome. This is actually, ultimately an outcome-based discussion. I will say I value very much the comments, and I would welcome the opportunity to talk to employees either collectively or individually, because that does play certainly into my decision, and I give my colleagues the benefit of the doubt, and hopefully into their decision as well. We want to treat our employees well. We value what you do, and it's not easy having these discussions, but it's important, and I'll leave it at that. So.
It's a big ask. And you don't get told enough times how hard you work and how much the public appreciates it. And you do get to hear a lot from the loud minority who maybe they don't appreciate. And I wish we could charge them twice as much for their water than the other people, but we can't. So, but I heard your points loud and clear. And thank you for speaking today. Anything else on this discussion item? No. Item B under information discussion is vacancy on board of directors. I asked for this to be placed in a discussion. Last meeting, there was a 2-2 vote to not have a method in filling the vacancy left by Jay Carlin's resignation. We heard from lots of members of the public that there are possibly people out there that would, and the big objection to us appointing someone was to not give them an unfair advantage in November. And I understand that there are people that would run and agree not to run in November. So I would like to ask my colleagues on the board if they would reconsider this position with that notion that it won't give an unfair advantage. That was the big downside. So just like to offer that up, because I feel that the board is supposed to be 5 people, 5 diverse people for a reason, and it's not that. And I'd like to see it returned to 5 as soon as possible. Go to the public first, or you want to go?
I'd go to the public first, sure.
Public comment on that? Go ahead.
I'm
I'm attempting to educate myself and learn about the process. And I did read that we were to give notice to the elections office. I guess it was 15 days post the resignation. So that was done? Okay. And then I guess we have 60 days in terms of deciding how we're going to fill the position. Am I understanding that correctly? There's 60 days, so you either have to do an election. I'm sorry, I guess I should be addressing it to you all. Or you have the, I guess who is it, Board of Supervisors makes a selection. Those are one of the two options. But you voted to not fill the seat, so now, no?
We didn't vote on anything. Nothing was agreed to.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're waiting now. Thank you for your patience with me. So we're waiting now until that 60 days is up to make a determination, the course of action. Do I understand that correctly?
No, I don't think we're waiting 60 days to do anything. I think that right now the decision stands that we're not going to do anything to fill the seat. That's why I brought this up to ask my colleagues up here whether they would reconsider their
So we're not
examining that again.
obligated to take an action instead of inaction?
We're not obligated.
Okay, I just
I don't
didn't know
think
what
so.
the
It's never
rules are.
been done this way before. Every other time there's been an appointment made by the
Okay.
board, which is the simplest and least cost.
But as a board, you're not called upon to take an action. So you just leave it be until at what point, I guess at some point, the Board of Supervisors has to decide, okay, you haven't filled it, so they'll either give you a pass or they'll fill it, right?
I think
In
they could decide
September?
to do it or not. They
Are we
don't
leaving
have
it
to
to
fill
them or no?
it. This board decided on nothing, so there was those three options placed ahead of us, and
Okay.
we could not agree on which one to do.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand how the legalities of that work or the protocols. And so you can just let it go, and then nothing happens until November, right?
I believe that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Christy?
There is a possibility that if the seat is not filled or an election is not called in 60 days, the Board of Supervisors can decide
Okay.
whether they will or not.
So it's a bit of a gamble, and we're betting they won't intervene.
None
Is
of
what
them.
is that really? I mean, isn't that?
The decision is the board's.
Okay. Okay, so I respect that choice. I guess the only other thing that concerns me is the dynamic that I'm observing between board members. And there seems to be some, I don't know, there's not a good energy between you all. And there seems to be some almost dissension or some, it concerns me. So I thought, well, what if there was someone in that seat, in the fifth chair, to kind of mitigate that so that you had a buffer or someone that brought a different energy to the board. That's just it's an observation, and I just wanted to express that. Thank you.
Thank you. More comments from the public? Yes, Martine.
So I think my real concern lies in the fact that we've got some really big decisions to make in this community here in the near future. There's talk about a tax proposal and this and that. And, I would agree with the previous speaker. There's, split board. And personally, my investment in my community would be better served if I had a board that could make a decision with a majority, not just 4, but 5. So what that in essence says is that I would not entertain in any form or fashion a tax initiative this coming November with the given makeup of the board currently and the split decision making that's currently occurring. Plus, there's just not enough time to campaign well enough for a tax initiative, especially a special tax initiative, which requires 2/3 vote. So if the choice is not to make a decision on appointing someone to have hopefully a majority, a tiebreaker, then I really would encourage to take the tax initiative off until the next general election in 2 years.
Thank you, sir. More public comment? Chiva?
Yes, I appreciate the previous comments, and I understand that we have differences here with people, and it doesn't bother me so much because I see things are being vetted and brought out and slowed down, and I really do appreciate that. I respect all of you, your decisions you make when you make them, but I want you to have all the information, and I really want to appreciate instead of you being criticized, and I'm not saying everyone's criticizing you, but I appreciate all your work that you're doing, and I appreciate you slowing down on some of these other tax increases, because if we're going to do it, we've got to do it right, whether we have 5 people or 4 people. Thank you.
Kara?
Yeah, I agree. If we push the budget back into the July instead of the end of June, if we get somebody on board and the board of directors, they'll have time to actually study and analyze the budget, not just be thrown in and voting. You know what I'm saying? It would be kind of hard. So I think that would, if we're going to do that, let's slow everything down. Let's see what the volatility of the COLAs are and all that's happening right now, because it's just insane out there. It's jumping all over the place, and really can't make quality decisions based on things that are going everywhere. So anyway, thank you, and you all do. I know you all have different opinions, and I do believe in all of you to come up with the right decisions. Thank you.
More public comment? Board?
Go ahead.
I just had a few observations. I mean, my first observation is the president's comment about he would love to see 5 diverse people. I would love to see 5 diverse people other than 4 or 5 old white men. And as an old white man, I feel I have the right to say that. So yeah, I'd agree, absolutely. My other comment is it would have been great to have this conversation before the vote. Any guesses from the community how many emails, telephone calls, texts, direct messages I personally got regarding the need to fill the seat prior to the last vote? Anybody? Anybody? Settle. Yeah. So, and then since then, I've had 4 emails out of a community of about 5,000 people. Not exactly compelling on the interest of the larger community. I think folks have got a lot of other more important things to think about. The other comment, I have several, but it was again brought up that the reason, as interpreted for my vote, was having anything at all to do with incumbency. I made a statement at the last meeting, and I tried to clear that up, but if I need to make it again, I'll do it. It had absolutely nothing to do with incumbency. I tended to agree with Director Jensen that it would provide an unfair advantage, but that was not the reason for my vote. My reason for the vote is I believe in democracy. I believe that those 5,000 people outside those doors deserve to choose who sits up here. This is not a Politburo. This is a representative democracy that we live in. And again, I suggest that anybody who feels that it is best to appoint another white man to sit up here, or another man, does not have the best interest of the participate. They're not actively seeking participation by the community that we all serve. as we sit up here. They want sameness, they want ease, they want things to be the way that they've always been. It's interesting. One of the most compelling arguments that I've heard for filling this vacancy is, well, we've done it 7 times since 2011. Folks, that's not a great argument in my mind. That's sad. That's not good government. That's not what you deserve. That's not what the people out there deserve. So those are my reasons. The other thing I would say is another argument I've heard for why we should fill this with an appointment is, well, you get a deadlock. Look at how everything is. Everything is deadlocked. My first comment to that is what Jiva had said. It does slow things down, and we need to slow things down. But secondly, how do you avoid a deadlock? Is it by appointing one of your friends to sit next to you and agree with you all the time, or is it to discuss? Is it to talk? We had an awesome discussion in closed session today. It's probably one of very rare occasions where the 4, or in some cases the 5 of us previously, have actually talked to each other, actually gotten things off of our chest, actually debated. It just doesn't happen. That's how you break deadlocks. You can break a deadlock of 4 people. It's not by appointment. So again, I challenge all of you who think that it's appropriate and best, not only appropriate, but best to fill that seat with an appointment. I challenge you to look at why you think that, and is it the best representation of the people? That's really all I had to say.
Just to add to the process of it all, so we have 60 days to decide what to do. Then the Board of Supervisors has 60 days to decide what they're going to do. And then after that, then it's a matter of them finding room in their calendar to put it on their agenda. And by the time where you're looking at September, October, and then they're going to come back and do interviews, that's going to take another month or 2. Here we are into November, so we're filling the seat in November anyway. There's no need for a special election. There's no need to spend extra money. There's no need for any of that. We're going to fill the seat anyway. I would agree with several of the speakers here. It might be a good idea to put the pause on the special tax increases so that we have a full, complete, and duly elected board and not just selectees or appointees. It would be nice to have appointees or elected officials here rather than appointees. At least that would give us a better gauge of what's going on. But as far as the seat goes, I'll say it again. If we could only turn back time to when we selected Mr. Carlin, the man who was soundly rejected by voters in an election just a few months before that, and instead we put our crony on the board, we could have selected Mr. Hernandez, or Martinez. I'm sorry, Hernandez. We could have selected Ms. Mitchell. We could have selected Ms. Freevert, if I could see her. She's back there. We could have selected any of those 3, and they would still be sitting here today. But we didn't do that. We selected a crony, and here we are. I have nothing else.
I did appoint I nominated Mr. Hernandez, and it didn't get a second, I don't believe. Everyone on this board did stand for election in 2018. Both Director Quinn and I stood for election and ran unopposed. So
that's not running unopposed. That's just not enough people put in for it.
We stood for election, and nobody opposed us to be on this board. So there's no need to campaign. So you could argue that we were unanimously consented to be on the board. Anyway, we're all 4 up here elected. There's no one up here that deserves to be here any more than anyone else. So I resent those comments by Director Jensen about duly elected board. This is a duly elected board. And it doesn't seem like we will be able to agree to fill this vacant seat by this board's appointment. So moving on to board comments. Director Grace.
Yes, Mr. President, if I could, it appears that we may have some HR, a new hire process coming up. for reasons I won't go into. It's not my place to discuss that, but the bottom line is it is likely we will be looking at a new upper-level management employee in the near future. I would challenge my colleagues to demand that each and every member of this board have a say in that process. We don't have to do the hiring. It is within the general manager's purview to do the hiring. But we should have input. We should see who's being considered. We should see resumes. The position in question is extremely important. It is no less than somebody who's going to be dealing with our money. So I would challenge my colleagues to require that of the general manager. The way the prior hiring was handled was an absolute travesty. At least one board member had an active role. At least one board member did not even know about the process going on. So that is not the way to maintain full transparency. It's not the way to do effective hiring and get the very best people into those positions. So again, it's a challenge to my colleagues. You can do what you want. I certainly will, and just wanted to require that. The process, again, was in direct conflict with requests / requirements that I had made in the prior evaluation of our general manager, as well as in personal conversations with him. He, in my opinion, almost deliberately chose to go a different route, which is certainly his right. But again, we set the policy, we set the tone of how he does his job, and I would suggest we need to do that. We have another bite at the apple here, and we need to take that opportunity. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, sir. Director Jensen.
I have nothing to add to that. I wholeheartedly agree.
Director Quinn.
I have some reservations about Director Grace's comment. The Administrative Services Manager, it's what we're talking about. The Administrative Services Manager, or Supervisor, Director, if you will, is a direct report to the General Manager. We, as a board, don't have much say as to how that person is doing because that person reports to the General Manager. In the case of the chief, and I assume that's who we're talking about, the chief is a very public figure, and I can understand how all the board members would be involved in the selection of the chief. So I have some reservations. That's all I have to say.
Can I just quiz you a bit? Would you suggest if all of us aren't going to be involved, then none of us should be involved? I'd be up for that.
I was chosen as one of the persons in the interview process.
I
Would have
appreciate
been fine
that.
with anybody
I would have
else.
loved to have been chosen too,
Would
but
have been fine with
I didn't know
anybody
about
else.
it. So
I don't care. That's the point.
that's awesome.
You know,
I guess my question is,
I
should
guess
we not?
Mr. Malinan wanted a cross-section of people, you know, so he chose a director, and he got Hamed, and he got the chief, and who else? Somebody else was there. Doesn't matter. Kristen, wow, Kristen, of course. So he wanted a cross-section. That's fine with me. Anyway,
Glad
that's my
it's fine
statement.
with you.
That's my statement.
Good.
Staff reports. That's not, well, those are board, yeah, okay.
Would it be out of line when you know you're going to be hiring somebody at that level, a director level, for the board to have it on the agenda, and then the board make a motion as to who should be included or not included, so that everybody feels they've had their input, that they've been heard?
It's a great comment, if I may, Mr. President.
Sure.
It's a great comment. I'm not even asking for anything that dramatic or that significant. I'm asking for transparency and full disclosure. And one of the commenters made a comment earlier about the tension on the board. There's absolutely tension on the board because certain of us up here are not being given all the information, and I've made this point repeatedly, and I will continue to as I am continued to not receive information. It's an extremely complicated process, and we need all the information that we need to do our job well, and we are not being given that. So there's absolutely tension, and rightly so, candidly. I'd love to live in a world where everything is daisies and sunshine, and we all go along our business. That's not how government works a lot of the time. It doesn't mean deadlocks, and it doesn't mean we can't move forward and we can't agree ultimately. But that's been the problem in this community for so long, and I wish folks would acknowledge that more, is that there has been regularity and sameness and going along to get along. So there again, I felt it was important to make that comment because I perceive that there's the interpretation that I'm the one that's causing the tension up here, and that may be the case. But in some ways, I feel like that's what I was elected to do. So in any event, I appreciate your comment, Carolyn, but I would just like to be included. I found out this individual was hired at the same time you did via the CSD website. So that tells you what I'm looking for.
I think you're right, though. Individually up here, we don't have any authority. The board as a body has authority, to clarify that point. What did we just do? Oh, we were moving on to staff reports, starting with finance. Is there someone to give a finance report? Any questions from the public on the finance? Thank you, Christy. Any questions from the public on the finance report? Any questions from the board on the finance report?
None.
Public Works report. Is many questions from the public for Public Works. Jiva, come on down. You are the next contestant.
Since you invited us, Christy, or invited all them and said we can ask them questions, and I know last time I asked Bill about the delamination on Deer Trail, and they're bringing all the logs down right now. I don't know how many trips a day, but it's quite a bit, and I know it was documented. Bill said that you guys had documented and you know what kind of damage was there. But I also see today that the delamination's getting much worse, and it's been, what, a week maybe or so they've been bringing the logs down. And it looked like the trucks were up there and already starting to remove where it delaminated, just above the mailboxes on Starland. So I was kind of surprised about that, knowing that it's going to get worse. So I didn't know what your plan was. And then I saw a bunch of gravel on all these spots. So I don't know if it's falling out of your truck as you're cleaning it up, and maybe not gravel, but asphalt and whatever, because then that makes a hazard. So I just wanted to bring that up, but I appreciate the job they're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, Kara.
Since all the guys are here, do you guys have all the equipment and supplies that you need on hand to do your job properly? Because I think that's real important. If you don't have it, you can't do it. What do you need? I mean,
We might need a whole meeting for
yeah,
that.
we may have a whole meeting about that, but that's an important thing that we need to bring up for the budget too. Because if they need supplies, we need to start putting that in the budget more.
Yeah, there's a
Thank you.
5-year CIP that covers a lot of that, and there are some capital expenditures shown in the budget at the end of each section of things that are in that budget. So it's can't plan for everything, but you plan for a lot. So appreciate your comment, Kara. Yeah, Caroline.
I just wanted to get up and publicly thank you. I mean, I was really touched by your announcement. Yeah, sorry.
Y'all have beards and they're wearing yellow shirts.
They came in disguise.
The beard guys all look alike.
I mean, it really was informative, and it made the point about, the challenges that you face and how hard you work and the time away from family and the long hours. meetings, and I know it's a little bit nerve-wracking to get up here and speak, and I appreciate you coming and sharing that with us. And again, thank you so much.
Public Works report, public comment. Board comments.
None.
Thank you for that appreciation shown to the staff. I know a lot of times they are underthanked. Public safety report, Chief. Public questions on public safety report. Oh, you're getting off easy tonight. Okay, board questions on public safety report.
Just getting back to the RIPA question, when can we expect to see like a monthly report or a quarterly report or something like that?
As you President Monitor and Board of Directors, Jensen, as you mentioned, so this has been, RIPA has been something that has been established in law for quite some years. However, it was implemented in stages. You had mentioned that this is the first year, 2023 will be the first year that we have to put out our report. That's because of the size of this department. If they were a larger department, I think it was back in 2018 that they started. So 2023 will be the first year that report to the state. That will be on the year of 2022. So my thoughts are that I would like to see that process played out. I'd like to see what other agencies are doing in regards to how they're making the reports, how they're reporting to the state, how they're establishing what information we're putting together in public reports and how they're presenting those, so that I can establish what I need to do on my side, because I'm not sure if those are something that's going to be made public by the state anyways, and how they're presenting those too. So I'm kind of waiting to see how that process works out. This is new for this department.
Okay. They are made public. I mean, once they go to DOJ, they're public documents. So essentially, we're not going to know what it's going to look like until it's time to send that first report. Then is that what I'm getting?
That's how I was approaching it.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Public safety report. Okay, very good. Thank you, Chief, and thank you for your service. Thank you for wearing the badge. Future agenda items, Ms. McEwen. Nothing to, I don't think we had anything to add. Special budget meeting, June 30th. And approve 22-23 tax roll items on July 14th. Anything else from my fellow directors up here?
Can we just clarify for the public the time of that special budget meeting? I think it was 10:30. 10 a.m.
10 a.m. on June 30th in this very room. All right. Yes, ma'am. That's great news. Excellent. Anything, more news like that is very welcome. I appreciate, Jerry, what do you got? Real quick.
Is there going to be oversight on the fuel reduction this time? I mean, last time there was no oversight on what was being done, where they were working. They didn't complete what
Yes.
they were going to do.
There will be oversight.
Will be oversight.
All right. I want to show my appreciation for everyone that's here. Thank you so much for attending and caring about this district and what we do here. I will now adjourn this meeting. Wow, and I can make my entrance at the plate.